Once again, welcome to the broadcast. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Our sign anchor tonight is Joyce Wairimu. Now, we begin with the education matters right here on Ebru TV Primetime News, whereas the Ministry of Education expresses confidence that learners are safer in schools. A number of parents think otherwise. A new survey conducted by Trends and Insights for Africa, that is TIFA, shows that 70% of households in Nairobi's low-income areas with school-going children fear that their children would contract the coronavirus in school. This comes barely a day after learners in Grade 4, Class 8 and Form 4 resumed in-person learning. After a long break occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, schools were forced to close in March. 7 months later, a phased reopening program has been initiated. While it seems like a win for the Education Ministry, some parents have expressed concerns. A survey conducted by TIFA in Huruma, Kibra, Mathare, Korogosho, Mukuru kwa Njenga and Kawangware shows that majority of the 555 respondents sampled expressed anxiety over the safety of their children. The survey conducted between September 24th and October 2nd revealed that the level of worry is most significant among women at 73%, with the level of worry among men reported at 67%. According to Magi Ireri, TIFA's Chief Executive Officer, 44% of parents with children are very worried that their school-going children will infect them with coronavirus, with the level of worry in women being the highest at 51% compared to men at 35%. The study reported that parents and guardians were particularly concerned that a majority of schools are not well prepared owing to the poor infrastructure. At the same time, there was a 22% increase in violence against children in the neighborhood. From the numbers, 28% represents physical abuse, 21% verbal abuse, while 46% both physical and verbal abuse. These findings come barely a day after Education CS Professor George Magoha, while touring a school in Nairobi County on Monday, to access the reopening, called for strict adherence of the revised 2020 school calendar.
For the private schools, where some people have tried to equate reopening with those who had online classes, we want to make it very clear that all children will start from where they left. Even if you make so much noise, if you send a child home because the child did not engage in online classes, that is criminal, and we shall come for you. The fact that it's a private school does not protect you.
He, however, underscored the decision to reopen schools, saying it was purely premised on the need to keep the learners busy, and exuded confidence that the situation is manageable. The schools were reopened to enable preparations for the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations, which will commence on March 22nd, 2021 and end on March 24th, 2021, and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams set to start on March 25th, 2021 and end on April 16th, 2021. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV. And elsewhere, parents with children in private schools are likely to face tough times ahead in regards to payment of school fees. The Kenya Private Schools Association, Peter Ndoro, maintains that at the end of the day, parents will have to pay their second-term fee arrears. And as Milia Kisianya reports, the payment will be made flexible to ensure that no student is locked out of school.
The debate on the school fees factor comes in a day after the Ministry of Education warned about taking action on schools that will send children home for lack of school fees.
May I once again plead with our principals and head teachers to ensure that no child is sent home on account of school fees, both in the private and the public sector.
And as schools enter their second day in the resumption of learning activities, private schools are slowly droning into the pain of meeting the COVID-19 protocols minus the funds. And with the burdening pressure under the umbrella body, the Kenya Private Schools Association now wants to change the narrative.
There must be a balance between the two, the schools and the parents. The parents will have to pay school fees at the end of the day, and they have to complete the school fees for this particular term. But then private schools will give them an opportunity to do that in a staggered manner. But that will depend on a case-by-case basis. It will not be for everyone.
Peter Ndoro, the chairman of the body, confirms that most schools have had their resources depleted and are still waiting upon the government's promise of crediting the collapsed facilities to rise back to their feet.
Kuna zile pesa shilingi bilioni 7 ambayo ilikuwa ni low interest credit facility kwa shule za kibinafsi. Hiyo pesa hazijatolewa kwa sasa, lakini tuna matumaini ya kwamba Wizara ya Fedha itatupatia hizo pesa haraka iwezekanavyo.
So far, a total of 199 schools have shut down permanently across the country, and at least 155,000 learners are likely to sort for alternatives of being back to class. A spot check within Nairobi County has seen several private schools shut down, with some resorting to businesses away from classes. Westlington in Kangwari area within Nairobi County that shifted its focus from class to tenancy about 2 months ago still maintains its stand on not reopening.
Even if we open up, it means that you will have to cough up money from your pocket in order to maintain what the Minister of Education wants. Government just thinks that we make a lot of money.
True.
Like us, we were not making money.
However, for other private schools such as this one in Lower Kabete, the certainty of keeping the ball rolling amidst the challenges to effect the COVID-19 protocol is still there.
From 4 we had 39, but unfortunately one of them, Joshua Mondel, passed away, and now we are going to examine 38 candidates.
Well, as the back-to-school train gains momentum, a section of schools such as the private school are still staggering to effect the COVID-19 protocols due to lack of funds. However, for some, they have kept it going amidst every challenge. Millie Kisenya for Ebru TV.
All right, thank you very much, Millie. Now, the country is still reeling from the phased resumption of in-person learning for grade 4, standard 8 and form 4 learners, with low turnout and social distancing remaining a big headache. Tutors are also beginning their new role of instilling the new normal. Take a look.
1. You should make sure
24 hours into the first reopening for in-person learning for grade 4, class 8 and form 4 learners, and teachers have begun their daunting role of instilling the new normal on learners.
should not share. Should not share. What should not share? For example, here in class, what should you not share? Yes? Good. You should not share your mask. Good.
At the St. Paul Primary School in Wote Town, learners being taken through the COVID-19 protocols to ensure the safety of the pupils, whether in classroom, school compound, dining hall, and at their dormitories. The school, like many others, witnessing a low turnout of learners, with some parents adopting a wait-and-watch approach. Currently, most parents are complaining that they were caught flat-footed by the government's decision to reopen schools next month, saying that they are staring at a mountain of bills amid reduced income and massive job losses.
Sasa kwa wakati huu tumefungua shule. Sasa ile shida iko ni school fees, sababu hatukuwa tumejiandaa kwa kutosha.
The parents have got a big cry that they're talking of. We give them a week, we give them maybe 2 weeks for them to maybe recollect and probably do some payments. Then we also have the issue of some even sharing of the idea of we are in fear of the government maybe not ready so much, and to the extent of probably closing down the schools after like a week or 2. So that is making some of the parents maybe fail to pay the school fees.
Sentiments echoed by the Machakos County Chief of Staff Mwengu Metuse, saying it is prudent for President Uhuru Kenyatta to set aside funds for 100% free education for 1 year as a way of supporting the parents who are currently undergoing economic pain orchestrated by the COVID-19 pandemic.
One of the things that we want to ask our president is that there is nothing more important in this country than education. And if we can cushion other sectors, then it is only prudent that we set aside public funds to cushion parents, at least for 1 year, without paying fees. If we can set aside money for artists, if we can set aside money for hoteliers, If we can set aside money for other sectors of the economy, there is nothing more important in this country than education.
Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
All right, now few students actually reported to school in West Pokot County, with Makutano Primary School within Kapenguria seeing pupils from both Standard 8 and Grade 4 having half of the total number report to school, even as in-person learning resumed day 2 today.
A spot check in West Pokot County schools revealed that fewer students reported to school since they were reopened yesterday. Makutano Primary School within Kapenguria has seen pupils from both Standard 8 and Grade 4 having half of the total number report to school as classes resumed day 2.
How we relate to one another.
The school's head teacher, Mr. Julius Arusei, said that all protocols required by the Ministry of Health in preventing the COVID-19 pandemic in schools, like hand-washing water points, have been placed outside the entry of every classroom.
All the pupils in Grade 4 and Standard 8, so those who are at home currently, you know, this is a town school, and most of the parents used to work in town, and during that time, some left to rural areas because of employment. They have not come back. So we don't know. We are yet to identify if there were some pregnancies or not. But currently, we don't have any.
Mr. Arusei, however, said that the Standard 8 and Grade 4 pupils have only occupied 2 classrooms, with each room carrying 12 learners, and that all teachers have been given a lesson and a class as they await official reopening of schools for all the other learners.
If we are going to have 2, then we shall have broken the rules of COVID-19 of the Ministry of Education. So, but we shall try. You don't know, if the ministry says the whole school come, it is going to be a challenge.
The school head says that the biggest challenge is the spacing, and if in case the government declares all learners to report and all requirements stand as it is, they will need another 100 classrooms to be able to sustain the 1,200 pupils.
Naomba serikali iweze kurevise hiyo kalenda na hata wakati wa kufungua shule, kwa sababu bado ita affect watoto wetu kwa mitihani ambazo zinakuja ya KCSE na KCP. Kwa hivyo naomba serikali waangalie maslahi ya watoto, waangalie afya ya watoto.
Learning was going on as all teachers had reported back for teaching.
And away from education matters now, the government might be forced to restore, and this is earlier restrictions, should COVID-19 cases surge. Health Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman, while presiding over the launch of Breast Cancer Awareness Month here in the country, expressed fear over the current trend of COVID-19 cases, even after government relaxed some of its measures, including school reopening. Now, our reporter Zef Khaimba with more details on that story.
It's the second day after schools were partially reopened after a 7-month dry spell of the learners. This was brought about by surging cases of COVID-19. However, with the current trend of the cases, government efforts in resuming normalcy might just go into a waste as the cases escalate, with 318 cases reported out of 2,592 samples tested in the last 24 hours.
Have to face it. If we find that the numbers are rising and are unmanageable, we will have to take action to restrict movements, perhaps even go back. It is a possibility that we could go back to closing schools if we see that.
Health Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Rashid Aman says Kenya should be wary of the cases, which as of Tuesday had killed 787 after 10 more patients succumbed in the last 24 hours.
And we begin to see that we are moving above the 5% positivity rate. It's a danger sign that we are moving in the wrong direction. And to avoid moving in that wrong direction, we need to be able to strictly adhere to these measures, avoid public gatherings. I think the data, as we have seen coming in, and we need to watch it very carefully over the next few days and weeks, is that we are beginning to see another steady climb following the relaxations. For instance, you can note that today our positivity rate was 12 point something.
Rashida Manueli presiding over the launch of the Breast Cancer Awareness Month at the Kenyatta National Hospital also raised concern of the cancer patients who are more vulnerable to the disease.
Our chief guest, Dr. Bormale.
In this year of the pandemic, those who are already sick or who have become sick with one of the biggest killers, such as cancer, suffered more both through being at high risk, but also as a result of all the measures and the attention to the coronavirus.
Of greater concern is the fact that awareness on early detection of breast cancer and uptake of screening services remain low. Only 25% of women aged 15 to 49 years have performed a self-breast examination, while 14% have had a clinical breast examination. Would like to urge our healthcare workers to resume screening activities while observing COVID-19 prevention measures. Likewise, I call upon our women to practice monthly breast self-examination.
Cancer patients for the last 7 months were the worst hit with the COVID-19 pandemic after government imposed tough restrictions. According to Dr. Catherine Nyongesa of Texas Cancer Center, it has been a double blow to the cancer health sector, handling both cancer and COVID-19 patients.
Due to the lockdown, many of them were unable to come to Nairobi for treatment. Also, transport issues because of the curfew. Some patients are on long treatment and it sometimes takes hours, like chemotherapy. So they were not able to come in early in the morning, get their treatment and get home on time. So some of them stayed away. Many hostels around Nairobi were closed and patients used to stay there and they come for radiotherapy. So they suffered in that aspect. Due to job losses to the family members, many of them are not able to afford cancer care.
Cancer, the third leading disease not only in Kenya, but across the world, has been a great monster that has overwhelmed the health sector. At every cancer center, patients will line up in long queues as they await medication, with some flying out of the country only to be returned back in caskets. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
And still on the same, leaders from Nandi County are urging the national government to put a lot of emphasis and declare cancer a national disaster. Speaking in Nandi County, the leaders said cancer continues to ravage many families as cases of patients in death being reported continues to increase on high rate. Led by Nandi Governor Stephen Sang, they said many people are suffering in hospitals and at home due to lack of resources, and many families spending everything they have to cater for expensive cost of treating cancer. They spoke during the burial of former manager EPKT Estates Emmanuel Kibore, who passed away after battling with cancer for a long time.
Ugonjwa huu ambao unaitwa kansa, nchi ya Kenya wasimame na kutangaza ni changa ya corona katika nchi ya Kenya. Kabisa. Inatumaliza. Hata jana nilikuwa hospitalini nikiombea watu kama 3-4 wamekumbwa na ugonjwa wa kansa. Na ukipata na ugonjwa tafadhali wana yumba uende utibiwe.
So I want to ask national government, now that corona is being managed, let us divert and put a lot of emphasis and resources towards the fight against cancer in our country today. If possible, declare it as a national disaster, so that then we can be able to move forward as a nation and ensure that we deal with a disease that is ravaging many of our residents today in our country.
And let's get to some politics now, where 3 members of parliament from Central Region, allied to Deputy President Dr. William Ruto, have accused the Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai of reintroducing dictatorship in the county.
The new safety regulations announced by the National Security Advisory Council continues to attract the condemnation of politicians allied to the Deputy President William Ruto. Speaking during the burial of Wilfred Murungi at Kaimecheru village in Matinga, Nyeri County, Rigathi Gachagua, Kimani Ichung'wah, Ndii Njoro say that the new regulations are worse than those employed by world-known dictators.
For the first time in the history of the world, we have seen policemen tear-gassing people in church.
IG Matiang'i, Kepiso na wale wengine, kindly do not take us back to the dark days.
MPs say that the Deputy President has a constitutional right to hold meetings whenever he wants, as long as it is not against the country's constitution.
I heard the IG saying that they are applying the law where they feel there is a security threat. They deny people permission to assemble. Bwana IG, be informed you have no powers under the law to approve or deny anybody to meet anywhere. The Constitution gives us the right to assemble and associate with anyone we want to associate with.
The leaders reminded the Inspector General that his predecessors were misused by the system, leading to the alignment in Hague.
But be warned, those misusing you today misused your predecessor, Major General Ali. He ended up at ICC. IG Mutiambai, ICC is beckoning, it is calling you. You will answer for the deaths that were in Keno the other day. If any other Kenyan loses life in the hands of police.
The leaders say that despite their persecutions, they will go on supporting Deputy President William Ruto's cause, which they said is meant to help the ordinary Kenyans cope with the harsh economic times.
Kama iko sheria ya kuzuia mikutano, iweko sheria kwa kila mtu. Tuliona wanakataza mkutano ya Ruto, Raila anaendelea. Simuliona? Mudavadi anaendelea. Simuliona? Gideon Moi anaendelea. Simuliona? Kwani hii ni sheria gani ya mtu mmoja? Na huyo Deputy President wanadharau. Huyo ndio Mungu atakuja kuwekelea mafuta akiwa pamoja na wananchi.
Gachagua said that President Kenyatta was elected on account of the contributions of his deputy William Ruto.
Bila Ruto Kenyatta angekuwa rais. Na hiyo hata watoto wanajua. Sasa hii ni madharau gani? Ati wale tulishinda, hawa sasa ndio wako wameza ndio wanakula.
Elsewhere, the police have granted permission for the two meetings that are set to be presided over by Deputy President in Kisii and Nyamira later this week. The meetings had been postponed last week over claims that they did not fulfill the Ministry of Health protocols on COVID-19. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Brian Odhiambo.
And elsewhere, the National Security Advisory Committee guidelines will be regarded as unconstitutional in a court of law. This is according to Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. While unveiling the party's candidate for the Msambweni by-election, Kalonzo maintained that the guidelines should not be imposed selectively but impartially. Here's our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim with more details on that story.
The new directives on public gatherings that have since been turned as fodder for politicians who are decrying selective application of the law on public gatherings continues to be a bone of contention within the political circles. With the by-election slated for December on the horizon, political parties are leaving nothing to chance. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has broken his silence over the new guidelines issued by the National Security Advisory Committee in regards to public gatherings.
On the face of it, if this matter was to be taken before the Constitutional Court, then it must measure up to the standards set up by the Constitution. And that is where probably the judge will have to address himself to that. I haven't the time to think about it, but my gut feeling is it probably will be deemed unconstitutional.
While unveiling the party's candidate for the Msambweni seat, Kalonzo maintained that the guidelines should not be imposed selectively but impartially. This comes even as the Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai said approval to hold meetings are given after establishing that there is no risk of violence or attacks by the group asking for the permit.
Those advisories notwithstanding, because it looks to me the advisories are targeting the political organizers and people who are campaigning ahead of time, ahead of schedule. As far as this advisory is not selective, because if it is selective, then it is illegal. Because citizens must be served equally by our state agencies.
Speaking when he unveiled party candidate for the Msambweni seat, Mohamud Abdurrahman, Kalonzo said the party is prepared to turn the tides in the December 15 poll.
And we are not sparing anything So this, you know, they frame it that way, and then from there they will say Raila Odinga versus Ruto. Are we not Kenyans? And are we not prepared to make sure we defeat both of them? Hey, we defeat both of them. It's a democracy. It's a democracy. So I can tell you they are in for a shock.
Several candidates are contesting to replace the late Dori, among them former Bongwe MCA Omar Boga of ODM, Faisal Abdallah, an independent candidate, Shatel Miriam Akinyi, also an independent candidate, Legaje Mwakaoje of the United Green Movement Party, and Sheikh Abdul Rahman of Wiper Democratic Movement Party. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ebru TV.
And elsewhere, politicians and religious leaders from Uasin Gishu County have accused police for being used to disrupt meetings organized by Deputy President Dr. William Ruto and his allies. They condemned the incidences of police throwing tear gas in churches and disruption of meetings, saying that it is crafting a bad signal to national cohesion as the country approaches 2022 general election.
Led by Uasin Gishu Gospel Ministers Chairperson Bishop Wilson Kurui and Turbo MP Janet Sitenei, they said that the recent directives that were set up by the National Security Advisory Committee requiring political leaders intending to hold a public gathering to seek approval from officer commanding station 3 days prior was a cunning scheme to bar Deputy President William Ruto from meeting and helping churches through fundraising.
I have never heard in the history of this country where tear gas is thrown into the church. Because a church is a place of worship.
Wewe hata polisi, wewe ambaye umepatiwa sheria utupe gas, tear gas kanisani, hata wewe polisi wewe unapaswa utengenezwe na Mungu properly.
Speaking during a fundraising at Bread of Life Church in Eldoret, leaders said tear gas should never be used near a church or any other place of worship.
The way they're handling security matters in this nation, they are going to draw this country into anarchy. They are going to put this country into the dogs because they are vested with the responsibility of protecting people, protecting lives.
Kwa nini sehemu zingine? Kwa nini Murang'a? Kwa nini Mumias? Kwa nini mna kipendeleo? Wachana na kipendeleo. Fanya kazi yako ile uliyopatiwa kufanya. Ya kusema kama kuna mtu ambaye ameongea vibaya, afuate sheria.
They said that both NCIC and National Police Service are being used by the government to fight Deputy President instead of being neutral in ensuring national cohesion and provision of security to all Kenyans regardless of their political affiliations.
Ugly incidents that have happened, I'm sure you've seen it in the forums, in cases, and other places. It should never happen like that. Let us not be used or misused by us politicians.
Samuel Kobia, ambaye ni kiongozi wa NCIC, unawezaje kuwa na kipendeleo? Una kipendeleo kabisa. Kipendeleo cha hii ya kusema mkutano mwingine inaweza endelea na nyingine inaweza hii mambo ya head speech umepatiwa wadhifa ya kuchunga hiyo na kutafuta wale ambao wanaleta hiyo msukosuko na mambo kama hayo, lakini wewe una kipendeleo.
Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Augustine Were.
Time for us to take a fast commercial break, but when we come back, still more ahead, including business and sports news. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Legia Maria Church at Godquero Calvary headquarters in Suna West Sub-County has appealed to the government to provide justice for the 4 families that had their kins reportedly killed following clashes that erupted mid-last month. According to them, police opened fire and killed 4 Legia Maria faithfuls, others maimed at Godquero Church headquarters.
Led by Pope Lawrence Ochieng-Kalul faction, the members said Legio Maria Church respects the national law but pleaded with the government to speed up investigations over the killings.
I'm still condemning these heinous and senseless killing of innocents which occurred on that day, supporting Adika to come and kill people, to come and aim people. I know the government is competent. I cannot attack them wholesome, but I'm attacking few elements who came here on their interest, self-interest, and cause or commit atrocity.
The members were speaking at God Quero Calvary during a joint requiem mass for the 4 victims who died following clashes that erupted mid last month.
The bottom of the truth of this matter, so that because we have some people or some women here, they are now forced to be widow. We have men here who are now forced to be widower.
The bereaved families also tasked the government to carry thorough investigations.
Walipiga bunduki hovyo hovyo ambapo walijeruhi watu wengi hapa na wengine 4 wakauliwa papo hapo. Hili jambo imetendeka kama nchi hii inaonekana kwamba haijapata uhuru wake. Manake hii nchi ilipata uhuru mwaka 1963.
I think this thing, it is open every Kenyans, and they are seeing what's happening. Why don't they take time and to investigate what is going on and why the prayers people are killing? I lost my son, I lost my branch.
Mid last month, chaos erupted when Pope Raphael Adika, flanked by armed security officers, forced his way to the shrines, which encloses the tomb bearing the remains of Melchior Ondeto. Upon facing resistance, they reportedly opened fire on their opponents, resulting in a retaliatory attack which led to the killing of 4 followers.
Now, a construction company will be forced to halt the construction of 38-kilometer Tala-Oldonyo-Sabuk Road at a section that cuts through the giant Kianzavi Farmers Company over compensation crisis. The farm management says that the road expansion will take a large part of their land, which will call for uprooting of thousands of coffee trees along the 2-kilometer stretch to pave way for the tarmacking of the road.
The stakeholders held a meeting at the disputed section and was attended by the area administration, Kenya Rural Roads Authority KERA, the construction company and Kanzambi Farmers Company management, whose resolutions were not disclosed to the media.
Paka mapu iletwe tuone na tujue ni hiyo futi. Kama ni futi kiwango ile ambayo inakuwa kwa hiyo mapu ya samani, tutaweza kukubali, na kawa ile iko karibu kama ni miti 100 tunasema ing'olewa, lakini ifanyike kitu kwa wananchi, kwa ile wenye kahawa hiyo wafanyiwe kitu fulani. Siko compensation, siko ng'oa kahawa alafu na kwenda nyumbani.
Francis Kalinzoya, the farm chairman, says they will not allow the uprooting of their coffee without compensation, forcing the company to skip the disputed section.
Na hakuna mtu tumeambia kuja kung'oa kahawa kesho ati apitishe barabara. Hawangojea mpaka tupike mwisho ya masikizano. Fika mwisho ya masikizano, ujenge mahali ingine hakuna kahawa. Pande ya nyuma na pande ya mbele hakuna kahawa.
Jacob Mutula, advocate for Kenzambi farmers, said his client is not stopping the road construction, but they are demanding compensation once the coffee is uprooted to pave way for the road construction.
Ni kuona hatujajulishwa mbeleni mambo ya kama hii kahawa imepandwa ndani ya barabara, kwa sababu hii kahawa ilipandwa 1930 na haiwezi kuwa ile tunaona, haiwezi kuwa barabara ambayo inachukua mita 200 wakati hiyo.
Matungulu Deputy County Commissioner Mohamed Abbas ordered them to table the original map to establish whether the coffee is planted on a road reserve.
First and foremost, let's state that categorically we are not opposed to the construction of the road or tarmacking of the road. What we are opposed is the apparent trespass on our client's land, the uprooting of coffee without compensation, and the trespass on the water resources by the contractor.
The China-based contractor takes over from a Kenyan contractor since the project stalled after it was launched in 2016. The Kenzambi Farmers Company owns 2,200 acres of land in Matungulu, where the road will pass through a 5-kilometer distance, disrupting a disputed 2-kilometer coffee plantations.
Tumeongea na tumekubaliana kwamba waende watafute map ya zamani ya area hii ili tujue ukubwa ya barabara pale inafika saa hii, kama ni shamba yao au kama ni road reserve. Kama ni shamba yao, then we will have engagement of negotiation for how we will go through about it. Lakini kama ni shamba imeingia kwa barabara, basi barabara itachukua mkondo wake.
Davis Mberia, Ebru News.
And to some other news, police in Makueni are on the pursuit of more suspects claimed to be saboteurs who have been vandalizing a stalled 1988 2 billion shillings housing project, with 2 people in police cells over theft of materials in the houses.
The project lies on the outskirts of Wote Town, Makueni County, and was started in 1988, stalled on the way with over 2,000 units, which were almost completed, having been vandalized completely.
These are fellows we call saboteurs because he is sabotaging the efforts of the government to see to it that Kenyans, including civil servants, who are entitled.
Those arrested, according to Makueni County Commissioner, are influential businessmen who have been ensuring the project doesn't take off, since it will affect their housing businesses in Wote Town.
We know, and I want to make this one very clear, even a number of investors in this town, we have heard through intelligence, they are fighting the completion of that project. Because they're saying, when these 200 plus units are completed, who is going to rent our houses? We understand, we know. It's unfortunate that these houses were 90% complete.
During the arrest, DCI officers found them in possession of a full truck of timber, suspected to have been stolen from the government's housing units, among other materials, following crucial leads by members of the public.
So the owner, after he was arrested, he mentioned others who sold the timber to him. And the main culprit, one by the name Richard Mudhama, has been arrested also. So the owner, because why do you buy an old timber that you don't know the source? So he has handled stolen goods.
The national government has this year announced plans to revive it to reduce the housing burden, where it is bound to be finalized in construction by a pool of private investors in a shake-up of the status quo, where housing projects would be started and stopped on the way.
Now, we have several VIPs visiting this project, including CS Waziri Matiang'i, Dr. Matiang'i, the PS Housing, Mr. Hinga, National Housing has also been here. So the matter is under discussion so that we see how best we can fast-track the completion. Sisi tunajenga na mwingine anakuja kubomoa. But I want to say that don't dare, because the government machinery is always alert.
Other top government officials who have visited the project that is bound to benefit government officials, especially police officers, include the CS of Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who had warned against vandalism to government projects. The other one was the Principal Secretary of the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, Charles Hinga.
The business world, where the 24-kilometer and this is railway line from Mai Mahiu Industrial Park to Longonot Town in Naivasha was supposed to be a game changer for residents of the semi-arid area of Mai Mahiu. However, the 3.5 billion shillings railway line that is currently under construction has turned out to be a thorn in the flesh for residents, majority of whom are peasant farmers. With over 700 families affected by the project, the contractor has moved into the ground, taking over tens of acres without their consent or compensation. Following the move, the affected families who met in the area threatened to head to court to stop the project, raising fears that works on the railway line could be delayed. Joseph Mwiruri, one of the affected farmers, blames Kenya Railways together with the National Land Commission, which was undertaking the project, saying that over 700 families along the corridor had been affected.
The contractor tells you that he's merely an employee, and the Kenya Railways themselves, who are the contractees, are not coming to us, and neither has the Land Commission given us adequate preparation in terms of this. What we are demanding and what we are asking is that the government must come, of course Kenya Railway must come, promptly to us, fair value for our land, and give us adequate notice to be able to relocate to other areas.
This was echoed by Scholastica Washeke, who said that the railway line was passing in the middle of their farm and a grave belonging to their late mother.
Kama tunahamisha, tuhamishe na heshima. Wa compensate ndio tuhamishe hiyo kaburi na tutakuwa tumeridhika roho zetu. Na hiyo land yenye wanachukua, if they are taking all the land, we don't have any problem. Wachukue na watu compensate and they move on with the project.
Another farmer, Francis Kariuki, said that they had legal documents proving ownership of the land, but this had been ignored by the contractor.
At least hata kama ni miezi 3 kabla ya kuondoka ndio kwa hiyo notice aweze kulipwa. Mtu anaambiwa aondoe chakula ama mafuta yake kwa shamba na ambaye hana chochote wakati huu ya kuondoa.
Speaking earlier, a senior officer from Kenya Railways, Jonathan Kirwa, said that the 24 kilometers line they had only acquired 4 kilometers where the earthwork was currently undergoing.
And Vihiga County Government has given farmers from the region 200 million shillings to boost their products, including fish farming. While launching the initiative, Vihiga Governor added that farmers will be given free lessons by agricultural officers on how to go about their agribusiness.
While launching extension service delivery to farmers, Vihiga Governor Wilbur Tichilo said a whopping 200 million shillings was given out to farmers to boost their produce, including that of fish farming.
Tumeshapeana zaidi ya shilingi milioni 200 kwa vikundi tofauti tofauti ambao wanaendeleza hizo components ambao nimesema. Tunaimarisha kilimo chetu cha mboga ya kiasili. Tunaimarisha kilimo ya ufugaji wa ng'ombe wa maziwa. Ya 3 ni kuimarisha kilimo ya kuku.
He said farmers will be provided with free lessons by agricultural officers on how to go about agribusiness.
Na peana elimu ya kutosha ili wakulima wetu watoke kwa ile kilimo ya kupanda tu chakula ya kukula, waende sasa kwa kilimo biashara. Na kufanya hiyo mabadiliko lazima tuwe na masomo. Our extension services wako na usafiri ama communication ili wafikie wakulima wetu nyumbani kwa mashamba.
I urge those ones who have been selected, those on the ward level, ninawaomba ya kwamba mfikie mama mboga ambaye ana mboga zake kwa field na anataka ajue ataweka fertilizer gani.
At least 25 motorbikes were launched for the service delivery, costing taxpayers 6 million Kenya shillings.
Wakulima waanze kupata pesa kutoka kwa agriculture.
Daniel Dembede, Ebru TV, Vihiga County.
Let's play. A team of 10 athletes who will represent Kenya in the World Half Marathon slated for October 17th in Gdynia, Poland, has jetted out of the country today at Eldoret International Airport. The team is led by Kibiwot Kandie, who teams up with Leonard Barston, Maurice Munene, Bernard Kipkorir and Bernard Kimeli. Now, the Kenyan contingent will be wary of other world beaters that include 10,000 meters champion Joshua Cheptegei, who will be leading his compatriots in Poland. Former world marathon record holder, Patrick Makau, has been appointed as the head coach of the team and will be deputized by Jonathan Kibiwot, AK Western Region Chairman. That is Patrick Kipsang is the team manager, while legendary athlete Catherine Ndereba is the team's chaperone.
Mazoezi vizuri, mwili iko sawa, naenda huko kupigania medal.
Naona line up, niko na our mentors, akina Jocelyn, akina Beris. I think watatulead. Mazoezi haiko mbaya, at least ilikuwa mzuri kidogo, although corona ili affect, lakini tunatarajia mema.
And we sure wish them the very best. Now, FKF Premier League's General Council has set November 20th as the date for the start of the 2020-2021 Premier League season. Consequently, the council, which comprises representatives from 18 clubs which compete in the top flight league, will Thursday release fixtures for the new season. Now, the council is hoping the government will give a thumbs up to the resumption of contact sport in the country. Sports CS Amina Mohammed has maintained a blanket ban on all contact sports, including football, volleyball and basketball, since March, when the first COVID-19 case was reported in the country. To that effect, the 2019-2020 Kenyan Premier League season was cancelled, and Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa declared Gor Mahia champions. And newly appointed Gor Mahia head coach Roberto Oliveira has set the bar high hardly a day after overseeing his first training session. Robertinho, who takes over the reins after Stephen Pollack and Gor Mahia mutually ended their one-season contract, trained with the team for the first time as they prepare for the new KPL season and CAF Champions League.
New Gor Mahia FC head coach Roberto Oliveira has reckoned that he has plenty of work to do as he settles down in his new role at the record Kenya Premier League champions. The Brazilian oversaw his first session and, according to him, retaining the league and defying odds to win the CAF Champions League are his irreducible minimum for the new season.
The more important, give priority for our talent. Player together, okay? One touch, two touch, because I trust too much in my group, because I have experienced players and young players. It's very important for a balance.
Oliveira joined Gor Mahia last weekend, replacing Stephen Pollack, who threw in the towel while on leave in Finland. With Gor seemingly peerlessly in the local elite competition, the new boss is keen to guide the club in redeeming its image at the continental level, having had an underwhelming campaign last season.
We need specific training every day for correction, for giving good, for organizing the good position, the correct position, what's the better place, and one detail more important for me, our three compartments, they need play together.
The Brazilian has over 25 years of coaching experience and is expected to help Gor Mahia continue with the domestic dominance and have a good continental campaign.
About this, I am happy, and I think more 15 days I think it's correct moment for check everything, okay?
Robertinho was in charge of Rayon Sports when they denied Gor Mahia a place in the quarterfinals of the CAF Confederation Cup as they masterminded a 2-1 win at Moi International Sports Complex in 2018. Davis Mberia, Ebru Sports.
And the national men's basketball team, Morans, have been given the green light by the government to start training ahead of the Afro Basket qualifiers set for next month. Now, the foreign-based players will join them 2 weeks before the championship because currently they're active in their respective leagues. The qualifiers are set to take place in Kigali, Rwanda from 25th to 29th November 2020, with Kenya facing Angola, Madagascar and Senegal. The Morans qualified for the second round after winning the pre-qualification round that was held at Nyayo Stadium Gymnasium earlier this year. All right, and on that note, we conclude Ebru TV Primetime News. Thank you very much for staying with us and choosing us to inform you on what's happening in the country and beyond as far as the news making headlines are concerned. My name is Winnie Lubembe on behalf of an amazing team who put together this bulletin. Sometimes you never get to see them, and I'm talking about mostly our technical team, from our director to our sound engineer, not forgetting everybody else in the technical field, and not forgetting our camera person and our jib operator tonight, and our sign anchor, as well as our reporters and editors. We wish you a lovely night. God bless and enjoy the rest of your week. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Good night.